This is where the scriptures must have been written. Back on Earth, Saul was just a story, but here on 22B, he is real.
Hey guys, Pete here. Today I'll be talking about Raised by Wolves Season 2, Episode 6. Titled The Tree, it continued the trend of things getting crazy on Kepler-22b. A new life comes into the world, as does the Tree of Knowledge from Scripture at a significant cost, and Campion names Father's ancient android project Grandmother because she's very old. The tree and grandmother do feel like the biggest development since number 7 was born, and I'll recap everything that happened to get us to that point right after this quick spoiler warning. If you haven't watched Raised by Wolves Season 2, Episode 6 yet, then this video won't be for you. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Everyone is kind of all over the place doing their own things in the beginning. Sue is on her mission from Sol and secures the dodecahedron Paul discovered from the tarantula. Mother is grooming Campion to become a leader, and let's just say he's far from a natural. She also takes Tempest for a checkup, and they learn that her baby is coming sooner than expected. This freaks her out because she's afraid that she'll only be able to see her attacker, Otho, when she looks at it. Father is transporting Marcus and Holly back, and Lucius discovers the ancient metal card that he took from the creature in the pit in the previous episode. When they arrive, Mother tells everyone that he only had powers because of her eyes, and offers to free him if he renounces Sol. He refuses to do that, and that lands him in the brig. Lucius isn't happy with that because Father promised to let him deal with Marcus, so Mother makes a new promise that once he's free, she won't stop the Mithraic from pursuing him. This is another example of how Mother puts what she sees as the needs of her children in front of everyone else in the colony. This is backed up when she talks with Sue, who agrees Marcus is dangerous and should be locked up, but doesn't want anything to happen to him because she thinks it would be devastating for Paul. She makes a valid point that Mother risks making him a martyr, which she counters by saying that it would also prove Saul doesn't protect believers. Paul insists that Marcus is the prophet. He believes he wears the armor of Mithras because he wasn't infected by the biobomb. And Campion is still under the impression that Saul intervened directly to save him from Tamerlane, so he's willing to try to help. They hatch a plan to try to manipulate Mother, but I mean, they're kids, so they're no match for a badass android. Campion goes to Father instead, who reminds him of the laundry list of reasons why they shouldn't let Marcus go. He's not wrong, but what actually convinces Campion to let it go is Father's ancient android. When he touches her hand, she activates and starts to speak ancient Mithraic. She also turns gold and starts to glow, and he realizes that this is what saved him rather than Sol. Mother comes in and is immediately concerned that this android is now functioning. Campion tries to tell her she's not a threat, that she saved him, and explains that he started calling her grandmother. He touches her hand again and she starts to float, and that freaks Mother out. So she puts in her necro eyes to protect Campion. They have a pretty intense silent face-off, and Mother appears to overpower her until she goes into sleep mode. She drops to the ground deactivated. Her veil started to light up and we could see something was happening there, but we don't really get an explanation for what was going on. Mother approaches her and says that she has a dark photon processor housed in her skull, just like hers, and wants to know how Father built this thing. He explains that he grew it, that it regenerated on its own. The process is similar to organic plants, so he's been calling it botanic tech. Campion ponders the possibilities. They could grow anything: cities, ships, giant androids. Father believes this could inspire the colonists and give them hope. And Mother is not so sure. She tells Campion to leave and then asks Father if her memories are intact. He doesn't know, but he repeats some of the ancient Mithraic, which Mother can translate, and it turns out that she was asking him why he wasn't wearing his veil. Then Mother finally asks the questions that we're all dying to know the answers to. Maybe this android can shed some light on the ancient civilization, their connection to Earth, and maybe even something about the signal. Father's still salty about that. He says the signal that impregnated you with number 7, and he doesn't believe she's associated with whatever that is because she's good. Mother connects her to the tarantula to perform diagnostics. Father thinks it's a strange way to repay her for saving Campion, but Mother stresses she's a stranger and they need to figure out who she is before they can trust her. They learn that her hardware is designed identically to Mother's. She is a very complex being, although there's something different in the place where Mother's weapon system is. They don't recognize its function, so Mother wants to keep the children away from her until they figure out what it is. She seems a little jealous about Father's excitement and keeps bringing up his reaction to number 7. He doesn't want to argue, and when they realize that there are thousands of years of data reforming, he says that compared to her, they're just babies. Sue puts Marcus into the torture chamber so she can have a meeting with him. She tells him that she heard the voice, that it helped her save Paul, and explains that it's a signal only some people can hear that's coming from this planet. She still hasn't drank the Kool-Aid, but realizes that the scriptures must have been written here, saying back on Earth Soul was just a story, but here on 22B he's real. She apologizes for not believing him and says that tomorrow she's going to grow the tree with Paul, and believes that after they do that it'll be easy to get him out. They try to use a laser to open the box and it goes nowhere. While this is happening, number 7 gets pretty upset inside his cage. It starts crying out and wakes up the children back at the habitat, and Campion leaves to go check on it. It's pretty clearly aggressive and doesn't seem to listen to him, but it backs off when the laser that Sue's using eventually gives out. Mother comes to the cage and yells at number 7 for threatening Campion, and I guess it appeared to show remorse. That makes her apologize, and then she comforts the serpent. Father is still looking through grandmother's files. He pulls something up that appears to show a sea creature similar to the one that attacked Vril and Campion, and when he's looking at that, her veil lights up. He goes over to talk to her and she answers in English this time. She's surprised that he's using that language and says, "You've removed your veil." He apologizes to her, saying that Mother is distrustful of strangers, and she asks who that is. He explains and she responds, "You mean the weapon." He tells her that it's his partner and they share a mission to restart an atheist colony, and grandmother reveals she thought Father was her partner. He tells her that's not the case, and she says she's experiencing confusion and asks him how many humans are on the planet. He says a few hundred and another is on the way, and then things light up around her and she deactivates. Tempest runs away and then goes into labor while she's approaching the acid ocean and says that she can't see this child. She can't do it. She's sorry, and she gives birth alone as the waves crash against the shore. It seems pretty clear that her intention was to throw the baby in the water after it was born, but she does look at the child and instantly bonds with it and takes it into her arms to hold it. While she's chewing off the umbilical cord, there's a shot of a pit under the water, and through the whirlpool above it, you see a sea creature swim out towards the surface. This one looks noticeably female. It comes up behind her and it tries to take the child away. Tempest tries to resist, but she's burned by the acid that doesn't seem to harm the baby. It takes the infant and opens its chest to reveal a cavity, and it puts the baby inside. As it closes, the baby seems to be safe in there, and as Hunter arrives, the creature jumps back into the ocean and leaves. Back at the habitat, they dress her wounds and Mother says they failed to protect a new life, the most important part of their mission. She thinks perhaps Father was right when he said they were becoming too human, too distracted from our own development to effectively monitor theirs. She goes looking for Sue and Paul, who at this point have helped Marcus escape. She flies to where Lucius has made his camp. She asks if he knows where they went and tells him that they left with the pentagonal box relic. He tells her there's a warning that she needs to see, and he gives her the metal card that they confiscated from Marcus. He said he wouldn't bother if it was just him, but he'd hate for Paul or even Sue to suffer this fate. It's a warning. She scans it and sees something, but we don't get to see as viewers. Marcus, Sue, and Paul are camping out. They look really happy to be back together as a family, which feels pretty ominous in retrospect. Paul falls asleep on Sue's lap and wakes up briefly to ask her to sing him the lullaby. When she does, the box opens to reveal a seed inside. She picks it up and it immediately sort of absorbs into her hand and appears to take over her body. She gets up and stumbles away, and when she gets to a clearing, she starts frantically digging a hole. The next morning, Paul wakes up and sees the open box. He notices the tree in the distance and wakes up Marcus. It's fully grown and it has 5 branches all bearing fruit. Paul calls out for Sue and starts to look for her while Marcus approaches the tree and eats from it right away. He sees patterns on the ground through the roots and the tree itself. It's not exactly clear if this has something to do with the fruit or not. He approached the tree and ate it at the exact same time, so I couldn't tell if this was already happening or it was a direct result from eating the fruit, which kind of looks like a brain, and you gotta wonder if he's actually ingesting a part of Sue at this point, right? With tears in his eyes, he touches the tree and he looks like he feels connected to it and everything else. The episode ends with Paul calling out for Sue and not being able to find her as Marcus kneels before the tree with his hand on it. Probably my favorite episode of the season. Murder, Revenge, Rampage, Vril is hard to top, but some of the character stuff really landed here. I think that it has been somewhat hit or miss this season, but the actors who played Tempest and Sue delivered in their big scenes. It was Sue's last, and that feels like a substantial loss. I suppose her spirit might live on in the tree, or perhaps even through the fruit, but I don't imagine there's any chance that the tree will transform back into the human. I think that ship has sailed. It does make sense that that's what Mother would have seen when she scanned the card. So this season has been moving steadily in the direction of revealing that whatever was going on in Kepler led to humans migrating to Earth. Then the technology that helped destroy the planet there and get them to head back was passed down through scriptures that also originated on Kepler. It was nice to see Sue put that together, although the prophecy says an orphan boy in an empty land will wield the sword forged in Soul's light, and with it, he will lead his people to the tree of knowledge, and all who eat from it will be made pure, and there they will build a city of peace, and the prophet will be made its king. So even though she got that as an atheist, Marcus and Paul both believe the prophecy's real. So when we see Marcus eating the fruit, he thinks he's actually the prophet. The abduction of Tempest's baby was not something you could have anticipated. I mean, that was pretty unexpected. I'm not sure if the implication is that something is special about this newborn so it's immune to the acid, or if we're just supposed to be distracted by the whole let me put this in my chest cavity situation. We know that Otho is the father. He says he was compelled by a voice. Grandmother also scanned the fetus and she didn't sound any alarms about it, but who knows? She might be capable of doing something herself there. Father saw one of the aquatic creatures in her memory. Was that just a nod to what's going to happen, or does that hint that there's a connection between grandmother and those creatures? I find the thing I'm most interested in is this mysterious thing that's in the place of the weapon system in Grandmother. Really everything about Grandmother, 1,000 years of history and all. She clearly predates human life on Earth. She should have a lot of useful information, and I'd like to know how she came to be scattered about the surface of Kepler just waiting to be regrown. The idea of botanic tech is intriguing. Number 7 getting worked up when they were just trying to open the box. What's going to happen now that Marcus ate the fruit? What will Mother and Father do about their failing to protect Tempest's newborn? Where's Vril? Is Cleaver going to get his mind back, and is the trust just out of the picture? I thought what Mother said to Tempest was interesting. She said, sometimes, Tempest, when under extreme pressure, human beings grow to meet their demands, and sometimes they regress in order to escape them. We've got 2 episodes to go, a lot of interesting questions, things I've really picked up in the last couple of episodes, and I'm officially excited to see where it's going. And I think that's a good place to leave things. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking. What was your favorite part of this crazy episode? And where do you think all of this is heading? Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.